Here's a guy who thinks he disproved atheism.
How would you explain to a person who is like, okay, science is usually right?
I don't know about the jab, it wasn't right.
How do you figure? How did you come to that conclusion without science? Also, even if that were true, citing a single mistake doesn't contradict the assertion that science is usually right.
What about...
Remember when they said trust the science?
Trust the science doesn't mean science is never wrong. It wasn't wrong in this example, but even if it had been, science is the least unreliable of all epistemic methods.
I don't want to go into like COVID and stuff like that, but science can be, bro. Are you kidding me? I can make this. You know, smoking cigarettes 50 years ago was healthy for you. Lobotomies were good. So when you had a headache, bro, they would like drill something. Science can change, dude.
That's precisely what makes it the least unreliable system. It doesn't deny its mistakes like dogma does. The fact that dogma does not change, regardless of the evidence against it, does not make it more reliable. It makes it less reliable.
I
don't think that should be our final framework. Right now, there's a million a year in America. Who's to say in 20 years? And view it just like with slavery, bro. That would be the science, the moral consensus.
Doesn't the Bible explicitly say that you may buy slaves? The Bible contributed to the moral consensus that slavery was something you may do because it explicitly says so.
Science can change, dude. Science catches up to God's moral framework. That's what I would say.
Why would it catch up to any moral framework? Morality is not a scientific issue.
So how do you...
YouTube, yeah.
How do you explain the scientific theories that are pretty accurate, like the laws of gravity?
Where did they come down to? How did they discover that? That further proves my point.
Scientific discoveries are made through observation and experimentation. They're not made through prayer or any religious practice.
They were immutable laws that were always here.
If they were always here, why would they need to be created? You can't create something when it already exists, and since they've always been here, there was never a time when they didn't already exist.
Which kind of goes to show, like, why would a universe have all these human laws that work perfectly for us, but we just came from space amoeba?
If God is all-powerful, he wouldn't need to make laws that are perfect for us. He would be able to put us into a universe with any set of laws. In fact, if the universe had a set of laws and constants that made it impossible for life to naturally develop, that would be far better evidence that life is not a merely natural phenomenon.
The early scientists who figured out gravity and laws of logic, these were Christians. Isaac Newton, etc., etc.
The earliest laws of logic were formulated by Aristotle. It would be weird for him to be a Christian, given that he died 300 years before the religion ever existed. And what are we supposed to take from this argument? Christians did lots of important science, therefore Christianity is true, or it helped them do the science? How does that follow? Also, Isaac Newton believed in Arianism, which has long been considered heretical, even in his day, so I don't know if you should even count him as a Christian.
So now, of course, scientists today, bro, they're not going to use that. But a lot of scientists today are still agnostic. They still acknowledge that there's so many undiscovered things that we don't know, like the Big Bang. Scientists today have no clue where that came from. Not
true. The Big Bang is just the earliest moment of the expansion of the universe that we still see. But even if scientists didn't know this explanation, what's your point? This sounds like a God of the gaps argument.
So you think...
It makes more sense for it to be God to create it, opposed to we don't know. Don't know.
Yeah, so...
I think that makes better sense.
Why? There's nothing nonsensical about not knowing something. And I don't see how it makes any sense for the cause of the universe to be a timeless, spaceless, disembodied mind.
The universe is too complex for it to be like a...
Random
it just
mutation.
happened.
Random mutation.
Okay.
Because the second law of thermodynamics is entropy. Do you know what that is? Things break down over time.
The net usable energy in the universe breaks down over time. That doesn't mean that order can never increase. It just means that increases in order are always accompanied by and often caused by a greater decrease in order. The reason order has increased in living systems on Earth is because of the much greater breakdown of order going on in the sun. The fusion going on in the sun is a big decrease in order, which throws energy everywhere, thus resulting in a relatively small increase in order on Earth that has allowed life to develop.
Why is the universe continuously building? Why are we progressing? Why are we moving forward as a species?
Because the sun's big decrease in order is fueling a relatively small increase in order on Earth.
If you buy a car right now and leave it in a garage for 50 years, what's going to happen to it?
It probably won't run in 50 years.
It's going to break down. If I get a tree and plant it after 100 years, what's going to happen? Or 300 years, it will break down. That's the law of entropy. It's the second law of thermodynamics.
The law of entropy does not say that everything always breaks down. We can clearly see that not everything breaks down all the time. Given that this is the case, no scientist would ever stipulate a law which says that.
Why are we continuously progressing moving forward? I would say it's pointing to an intelligent designer keeping us so.
It seems you would say lots of things that are non sequiturs.
Really?
Absolutely.
You don't think we've peaked intelligence-wise?
No. Absolutely not, man. Why? Because we're always coming back to the Bible. But yes, I believe this is such a good point. If we move away from God, we become stupider as a society.
Really?
Absolutely, bro. I don't mean to get like graphic and stuff like that, but like we believe now there's 72 genders.
Where does this 72 genders thing even come from? What peer-reviewed journal published a paper announcing the discovery of all of these genders? And the note at the bottom about men getting pregnant is, I think, deliberately obtuse. I suspect this guy uses the word men to mean people who do not have gestational reproductive systems. Literally nobody claims that men, by that definition, can get pregnant.
We believe like, you kid is just a fetus. We believe like everything is subjective.
Who believes that everything is subjective? Do you believe that anything is subjective, or do you believe that even beauty is objectively dictated by God?
And why are we doing that? Because we're moving away from society. The more secular a society becomes, the stupider it becomes.
I thought you said that we were progressing. And by what metric exactly are we getting stupider? Finland is much more secular than the US, but their students perform much better than American students. I'm sure you would say that scholastic achievement doesn't count as a legitimate measure of intelligence, but if that doesn't count, what would?
Okay, I can agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. That's what the Enlightenment era was. The Enlightenment era tried to make rationale without God, and guess what they did? They failed.
Yes, the Industrial Revolution that resulted was such a failure.
You know the 7-day work week is due to the biblical paradigm? God worked 6 days, rested the 7th day.
Wouldn't that be a 6-day work week? And isn't it better that we now have a less biblical 5-day work week?
You know in the English Enlightenment, they tried to remove the 7-day work week to try to change it to something else, and it couldn't work.
They tried to convert from a 7-day week to a 10-day week. I imagine it would be difficult to switch given how everyone is used to a 7-day week, and they would be surrounded by cultures that still use the 7-day week. But I suspect this guy thinks that it didn't work because God created us to operate on 7-day cycles, despite all the ancient cultures that had different week cycles with no problem at all.
Isn't that kind of cool too?
It is.
It's just like a little cool thing that like God...
You think that could happen now?
They're trying, dude. We're becoming the stupidest society ever.
Really?
Yep. Women have searched all this stuff up. Women have never been on more anti-anxiety, anti-depression medication than ever before. The male suicide rate's never been higher. It's 4 times higher than women. In 5 years' time, 50% of women will be childless and single.
Given that a lot of that is happening even in the most religious countries, I don't see what that has to do with becoming more secular. Birth rates in Saudi Arabia are a third what they were 60 years ago. Is that because Saudi Arabia has become more secular? Russia's birth rates have dropped to well below replacement levels despite becoming far less secular over the last 30 years.
It's okay, don't worry about it.
And I do agree that is a secular issue of society.
So do you think that secularism is progressing us?
I'd prefer to live now than during the Jim Crow morality of the 1950s, so in that respect, yes.
No, I think people are too, but I think that as a society, even that could be more on taking a liberal role instead of conservative. A lot of people are like, a lot of people like to quit nowadays.
But what is conservatism? Do you know what conservatism is? You kind of just proved my
point. It is kind
of
religious.
What is conservatism? What is the word? To conserve. What are they
stay the same.
What are they conserving? But what are they conserving?
Values.
What values?
The religious ones that they hold.
Biblical values.
Is supply-side economics a biblical value?
So remove that. Remember? Let's just go pure to secularism, liberal, far left. They believe 72 genders, a boy, a kid. You know, there's no such thing as a man and a woman. We're in the stupidest generation that's ever existed because of the removal of the Bible.
I've never met or even heard of a single Zoomer who believes that there's no such thing as men and women. If folks like that exist, they're clearly not representative of their generation.
The Bible gives us our logic, our morality. God made man and woman, human beings in his image. Love your neighbor as yourself. Where does secularism teach you that?
Humanism is secular, and treating others as you want to be treated is a pretty core tenet of that moral system.
Secularism is based off what? Social Darwinism, eugenics.
No, it isn't. Again, humanism is secular and completely opposed to eugenics. Humanists believe that everyone has equal inherent value just by virtue of being human. Eugenics denies this.
You know what? I like those pants. Let me kill you. There's no moral framework. I came from a monkey. Who cares?
Anyone who inherited a capacity for empathy from that monkey cares.
There's no God. I can do whatever I want. Do you see the problem with that?
I do.
And the bloodiest century in the world was based off that. Communist values. In a communist country, do you think you can have a religion? Illegal.
Then how is 60% of Cuba Catholic?
I'm just stating history, bro. You make an inference based on whatever you want. Now, does this definitively prove that there is a God? It doesn't definitively prove, but it is good evidence to me. It is evidence.
How is it evidence of a timeless, spaceless, disembodied mind?
And you make an inference based on the evidence. That's all we can do, bro. We can just weigh the evidence.
So,
atheistic worldview is absurd.
You believe religion helps us keeps us grounded as like a whole.
Christianity, not just religion. Because Islam, I would say the exact opposite. Islam, you can beat your wife.
So how would you convince really any other religion to be like, your religion isn't the right one?
Exactly what we just said here. Oh, I would also, okay, I like this. Let's move on to this. So we just went from atheism to theism. Now you're talking about from theism, we believe that there's a higher power, we believe there's a God. How do we know it's Christianity over Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism? Is that kind of the question you're asking?
Yeah.
Great question. First thing, I would acknowledge that every major religion acknowledges Jesus.
Okay.
Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, so they all know that there was Jesus.
I don't know of any religions that deny the existence of Muhammad, so is that evidence that Islam is true?
Okay, so we're on the same playing field with that. Some would call it a prophet, a good moral teacher, yada, yada, yada. Jesus says that he is God, so we should definitely take that into consideration.
No, he doesn't. Nowhere in the Bible is Jesus quoted as saying, I am God. Every passage that is cited as evidence that Jesus said he was God requires at least some creative interpretation in order to draw out that conclusion.
I would also agree that Christianity built the West. It advanced our society the furthest. Hinduism didn't whatsoever. Islam's an archaic religion. No other religion has the same fruits as us. Why? Because it's pointing back to our moral God.
The West was already exceptional in many respects centuries before it became Christian, so I'm not convinced that its further success is anything more than a continued trend.
It's pointing back to our God with logic, reason, morality. The majority of the West here, you can search up the Nobel Prizes, 70% of them. Nobel Prize is basically a prize for intellectual advancement. About 70% of them were to Christians.
Is that because Christianity makes you smarter, or because scientific research is expensive and Christendom is exceptionally wealthy?
Is there a reason everyone's Christian? Like, why is that
Best religion? Because it's the truth.
Then why are people becoming increasingly secular?
To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.